Hello and welcome to Daily News Simplified, an answer to what, why and how of newspaper reading. Today we will discuss the articles displayed on the screen from the Delhi edition of The Hindu newspaper dated 17th March 2019. Now in today's newspaper, several news articles have been repeated and these articles have been covered previously in the various DNS videos. So in the description of today's video, we will provide you link of those videos where these articles have been covered. So you should revise all those articles from the previous videos. And now let us start the discussion for today's newspaper. Now this article on page number 20 is related to the death of a critically endangered species which is known as the porpoise. So this will form a part of the preliminary examination syllabus under the topic biodiversity. So in this article, let us try to understand what is this porpoise, where it is found, and what is the conservation status of this porpoise. So this article states that a Vanquita porpoise has been found dead off the Gulf of California. And you should note that it is a critically endangered marine animal. So that is why let us understand some basic facts related to the Vanquita porpoise. Now this is also called as Vanquita marina. And regarding the habitat or the range where it is found around the world, you should note that this Vanquita lives only in the shallow waters of the upper Gulf of California. So you should note that the Gulf of California is located here off the coast of Mexico. And you should also note that the famous Colorado River drains into this Gulf of California. Secondly, this species Vanquita marina is restricted to very small area. And that is why it is facing a danger of extinction. This is because its habitat is not diversified. So in case this population dies, there will be no other population around the world. So that is why this species is facing extinction. And that is why it is the world's most endangered marine mammal. And currently its population is only 18 in the world. And accordingly, it has been accorded as the critically endangered status in the IUCN's Red List. And also, its trade has been restricted under the CITES, which is a Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Flora and Fauna. And under this, it has been listed in the Appendix 1, which means that the trade in this animal is strictly prohibited. So these are few facts related to the Vanquita marina or the Vanquita porpoise. And these can be important for us from the preliminary examination point of view, especially the location where it is found and the conservation status of this Vanquita porpoise. Now the biggest threat this Vanquita porpoise is facing is because of the accidental catching of this marine animal in nets which are intended to catch the fishes and shrimps in the Gulf of California. And as they get caught accidentally in the nets which are intended to catch the fishes, these marine animals die. And that is why it has become the most endangered marine mammal now. Further, you should note that this Vanquita marina or the Vanquita porpoise has been listed as the top 100 evolutionarily distinct and globally endangered mammal in the world. And these are called in the short form as the EDGE species. Now what is meant by this evolutionary distinct and globally endangered mammal? So here you should note that these mammals have a conservation status as either endangered or critically endangered. And further, according to the evolution, these species are distinctive species, which means that these species do not have any other closely related species. Now an example of this kind of species can be elephants. So you should note that there is no other species which is very closely related to the elephants. On the other hand, if you look at tigers, they are a part of the cat family. So here you should note that if the elephant species goes extinct, no other closely related species will survive on the world because it does not exist in the first place. However, if the tigers get extinct, their closely related animals which are a part of the cat family will still survive, which means that a part of that genus will still survive. So that is why these have been claimed as the evolutionarily distinct and globally endangered. So here you should note that the distinctive species have few closely related species and EDGE species are often the only surviving members of their genus. And that is why the extinction of such EDGE species or the distinctive species would cause disproportionate loss of unique evolutionary history and biodiversity. So regarding the conservation of such kind of EDGE species, an initiative has been launched by the Zoological Society of London. And the name of this global conservation initiative is the Edge of the Existence program. And the main aim of this program is to raise awareness and funds for the conservation of such kind of species. So these are few important facts related to the Vanquita porpoise, and these are important for us from the preliminary examination point of view. Now after going through this discussion, you should try this question from your preliminary examination point of view, and the answer for this question will be displayed after 5 seconds. So the question reads, with reference to the Vanquita porpoise, consider the following statement. So the first statement reads, it has been listed as near threatened in the IUCN's red list, which is an incorrect statement because it has been listed as critically endangered in the red list. The second statement reads, it has also been classified as one of the top 100 evolutionarily distinct and globally endangered mammal in the world. So this statement is correct. Hence the correct answer that comes out is B, that is 2 only. Now such questions can be asked in your UPSC prelims examination. Now at this point it is looking a very simple question because we have just read about this Vanquita porpoise. However, if such questions appear in your UPSC exam, they can only be answered if you have revised thoroughly these things. So that is why such important facts related to the species which are being discussed should be kept in mind and should be revised regularly. And with this, let us move on to the next article. Now this news article on page number 15 is related to a new kind of gel which has been created by the IIT Guwahati. And this gel has the quality of selectively removing either the oil or the water. So this can be an important part for us from the preliminary examination point of view under the topic general issues on environment. Secondly, it can also be a part of the general science. Now this gel will be very helpful in the cases of oil spills. And you should note that in the year 2011, there was a question related to a term oil zapper which was in news in that year. And this oil zapper was an eco-friendly technology for the remediation of oily sludge and oil spills. So that is why this chemical which can remove the oil spills or handle the problem of oil spill which causes disaster in the marine ecology is an important aspect for us from the preliminary examination point of view. So now let us understand what is the name of this gel and how does it help in removing the oil or either water from an oil spill. So regarding this gel, you should note that it is a natural biopolymer and the name of this gel is Chitosan. And regarding this gel, you should note that the researchers from IIT Guwahati have been able to change the property of this natural biopolymer. And by changing this property, they have been able to make this natural biopolymer to repel oil and water in cases of oil spills. Now regarding biopolymers, you should note that these are those materials which are made from soybean, corn, cane, sugar, cellulose, chitin, etc. So which means that they are created or made from the natural sources only. And regarding this Chitosan gel, you should note that it is mainly obtained from the crustacean shells, for example, the shrimps. So this is also an important fact for preliminary examination. Now regarding the use or function of this Chitosan, you should note that its properties can be changed by using certain chemicals. And by use of different chemicals, they can be made either oil repelling or they can also be made water repelling, which means that based on the requirement, their properties can be changed. And that is why it has huge applications in the oil spills. And in such oil spills, this material can be made to remove oil if the spill is less, and also this material can be made to remove water if the oil spill is more. So according to the requirement, the chemical property of this Chitosan can be changed. Secondly, you should note that the gel which is created by using Chitosan can separate kerosene, motor oil, olive oil and even crude oil from the water. So that is why it has a very good implication. So that is why it has an important application in cases of oil spills. So after going through this discussion, you should try and answer this question from your preliminary examination point of view. And the answer for this question will be displayed after 5 seconds. So this question reads, which of the following statements are correct about the Chitosan biopolymer? The first statement reads, using certain chemicals, the polymer can be made to switch from water repelling to oil repelling. Now this statement is correct as we have read in this discussion. The second statement reads, Chitosan is mainly obtained from crustacean shells such as shrimps. This statement is also correct. Hence the correct answer that comes out is C, that is both 1 and 2. And with this, let us move on to the next article. Now this article on page number 9 reads that the UN meet has diluted Indian plan to phase out single-use plastics. Now here you should note that on the World Environment Day on June 5th, India had pledged that it will eliminate the use of single-use plastics by the year 2022. However, this meeting of the United Nations Environment Assembly, which was just concluded, has not received at any conclusion regarding the phasing out of single-use plastics, and they have pushed the deadlines regarding this goal. And that is why India is a bit disappointed about this. Further, India was also pushing toward the curbing of nitrogen pollution. However, nothing was finalized at the United Nations Environment Programme's meet regarding the curbing of nitrogen pollution, and no timeline was decided at this meeting. So now let us understand the important facts related to the UN Environment Assembly, and also let us understand some facts related to International Nitrogen Initiative, which aims at curbing the pollution or the nitrogen pollution. Now regarding the UN Environment, you should note that it was earlier known as the United Nations Environment Programme. However, these days it is called as only UN Environment. And regarding this, you should note that it is a leading global environmental authority that sets the global environmental agenda. It also promotes coherent implementation of environmental dimensions of sustainable development within the United Nations system. And it also aims at advocating policies related to global environment. Now, how are the decisions taken by this UN Environment? So in this regard, you should note that a body is there which is known as UN Environment Assembly, and it is the world's highest level decision making body on the environment. Further, it also addresses critical environmental challenges which are faced by the world today. Further, you should also note that environment is at the center of the Sustainable Development Goals. And you should note that the aim of achieving the Sustainable Development Goals is by the year 2030. So the UN Environment Assembly also aims at achieving all these environmental goals related to the Sustainable Development Goals. Now, one important fact related to this UNEA is that it meets biennially. And at this meeting, various decisions are taken related to environmental policies or environmental laws around the world. For example, on this year's United Nations Environment Assembly agenda, the main aim was to reach at a deal which was related to curbing the plastic pollution as well as curbing the nitrogen pollution. Now, one important initiative is the International Nitrogen Initiative, which aims at curbing the nitrogen pollution in the environment. And regarding this initiative or international program, you should note that it was set up in the year 2003. And it was set up by the sponsorship of Scientific Committee on Problems of Environment or SCOPE, and from the International Geosphere Biosphere Program or the IGBP. And you should note that this program is currently a sustained partner of the Future Earth Organization. So we will also learn about this Future Earth Organization. Regarding the objectives of the International Nitrogen Initiatives, you should note that it aims at optimizing the nitrogen's beneficial role in sustainable food production. Now you should note that the majority of fertilizers which are used in the food production are the nitrogenous fertilizers, and these are chemical nitrogenous fertilizers. However, due to the increased use of these fertilizers, the environment is facing trouble of nitrogen pollution. So the other aim of this initiative is to minimize nitrogen's negative effects on human health and environment, which is resulting from food and energy production. Now, regarding the negative impacts of nitrogen pollution, you should note that normally the nitrogen is found in an inert form, that is N2. However, reactive nitrogen is produced because of various processes on the earth. And these reactive nitrogen forms can be simply explained as the various variants in which the nitrogen is present. One particular example of reactive nitrogen are the NOx gases. Now, what are the negative impacts of this reactive nitrogen? So here you should note that it is known to influence high concentration of ozone in the lower atmosphere. It is also known for eutrophication of the coastal ecosystems, acidification of forests, soils and freshwater streams, lakes, and losses of biodiversity, etc. So this means that this reactive nitrogen is a problem for our environment because it causes the increase in high concentration of ozone in the lower atmosphere. It increases the chances of eutrophication and also of acidification. Further, you should note that nitrogen in the form of nitrous oxide is a greenhouse gas, and it can be responsible for global warming as well as stratospheric ozone depletion. So these are the negative consequences of nitrogen pollution. Now, regarding Future Earth, you should note that it is a global platform for international scientific collaboration related to providing the knowledge related to reducing the risks which are posed by global environment change. And this organization deals with various initiatives related to global environmental change. And some of the projects which are related to the future Earth are known as the Diversitas, the International Geosphere Biosphere Program or the IGBP, the International Human Dimensions Program or IHDP, and the World Climate Research Program WCRP. So all these aspects can be important for us from the preliminary examination point of view. And these aspects of the nitrogen pollution and also the details about the International Nitrogen Initiative and Future Earth have been discussed in the focus of September month. So you should further go through this magazine to understand this in detail. And with this, let us move on to the next article. In this article on page number 5, the National Green Tribunal has directed the Central Pollution Control Board to prepare noise pollution maps. So in this article, let us try to understand some key facts related to the National Green Tribunal and the Central Pollution Control Board. So this will form a part of the preliminary examination syllabus, and various questions have been asked in the previous years related to the NGT and the CPCB. Now if you go through the previous year questions, you will find that there was a question in the year 2012 and also there was a question in the year 2018 related to the National Green Tribunal, and in the year 2018 this question was related to the difference between the NGT and the Central Pollution Control Board. So let us understand some facts related to National Green Tribunal and the Central Pollution Control Board. So regarding the National Green Tribunal, you should note that it was established under the National Green Tribunal Act of 2010, which means that it is a statutory body. Further, this National Green Tribunal was established for effective and expeditious disposal of cases relating to the environmental protection and conservation of forests. And it also deals with the enforcement of any legal right which is related to environment, and it also provides giving relief and compensation for damages to persons and property and for matters connected with the environment. So this means that it takes care of almost all issues relating to the conservation and protection of environment and forest. Further, you should note that regarding its working, the tribunal shall not be bound by the procedure which is laid down under the Code of Civil Procedure of 1908, and it will only be guided by the principles of natural justice. So this is another important fact which is related to NGT. Secondly, the tribunal is mandated to make an endeavor for disposal of applications or appeals within 6 months of filing the case. Further, you should note that the NGT has principal bench in Delhi and has 4 zonal benches. Now you should also be aware about the acts which are dealt by the National Green Tribunal. So here you should note that it deals with the Water Act of 1974. It also deals with the Water Cess Act of 1977, the Forest Act of 1980, the Air Act of 1981, Environment Act of 1986, the Public Liability Insurance Act of 1991, and also with the Biological Diversity Act of 2002. However, one important point to be noted is that it does not deal with the Wildlife Protection Act 1972. So this aspect can be an important fact for us from the preliminary examination point of view, and this should be kept in mind. Now after going through the various aspects of NGT, let us look at the key facts related to Central Pollution Control Board. Now regarding the Central Pollution Control Board, you should note that it is a statutory organization and it falls under the Ministry of Environment and Forest. Now this is a statutory body because it was established under the 1974 Water Act. Further, this organization has also been entrusted with the powers and functions under the Air Act of 1981. Further, it serves as a field formation and provides technical services to the Ministry of Environment and Forest under the provisions of Environment Protection Act 1986. So all these acts which are related to the Central Pollution Control Board are an important aspect for us from exam point of view. Further, you should note that it coordinates the activities of state pollution control boards by the way of technical assistance, etc. Also, it is the apex organization in the country in the field of pollution control, as well as it is a technical wing of Ministry of Environment and Forest. The main functions of the Central Pollution Control Board, which have been spelt out under the Water Act of 1974 and the Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act of 1981, include to promote cleanliness of streams, wells in different areas of states by prevention, control and abatement of water pollution. And the second aim is to improve the quality of air and to prevent, control or abate the air pollution in the country. So these are some important facts related to the Central Pollution Control Board. And as you would know, in the year 2018, there was a question related to the difference between the NGT and the CPCB. So now let us attempt these questions which were asked previously. So the question that was asked in 2012 read, the National Green Tribunal Act 2010 was enacted in consonance with which of the following provisions of Constitution of India? So the first statement reads, the right to healthy environment construed as a part of right to life under the Article 21. Now this is a correct statement. The second statement reads, the provisions of grants for raising the level of administration in scheduled areas for the welfare of scheduled tribes under Article 275(1). Now the National Green Tribunal does not have any relation with the provisions of Article 275 which is related to the scheduled tribes. So this is an incorrect statement. Hence the correct answer that comes out is A, that is 1 only. Further, let us look at the question which was asked in the year 2018. This reads, how is the National Green Tribunal different from the Central Pollution Control Board? The first statement reads, the NGT has been established by an act, whereas the Central Pollution Control Board has been created by an executive order of the government. Now this is an incorrect statement because Central Pollution Control Board has also been created by an act, and we know that it has been created under the Water Act of 1974, which means that the CPCB is also a statutory body. The second statement reads, the NGT provides environmental justice and helps reduce the burden of litigation in the higher courts, whereas the CPCB promotes cleanliness of streams and wells and aims to improve the quality of air in the country. Now this statement is correct. So the correct answer that comes out is B, that is 2 only. So here you should understand that questions can always be asked related to important facts related to the bodies which are governing the environmental laws in India. So that is why various aspects of NGT and CPCB are important for us from exam point of view. Now let us take up the articles about which we have already discussed in the previous DNS videos. For example, this article on page number 6 in the Sunday magazine of The Hindu talks about the Dongaria Kondh tribes, about which we have already discussed in the DNS of 24th February 2019. So in today's description, you will find a link of this video so you can revise about the various aspects of the Dongaria Kondh from this video. Further, this article on page number 5 is related to the Italy's intention to join the China's Belt Road Initiative. And in the DNS of 9th March 2019, we have read about an editorial which talks about Italy's intention to join the China's Belt Road Initiative. And in this article, we have discussed about what is meant by the membership of Belt Road Initiative and how is it different from being a member of other international organizations like the United Nations, etc. So to understand this issue in detail, you should go through this video of 9th March 2019. And also in today's description, the link for this video will be provided. Further, in the Sunday magazine on page number 8, an article is related to the Rani Ki Vav of Gujarat. And you should note that it has been listed under the UNESCO's World Heritage Site list. Now this Rani Ki Vav was also in news because its picture has been used on the 100 rupee currency note in India. And that is why we have discussed about the various details of Rani Ki Vav in the Daily News Simplified of 20th July 2018. So in today's description, you will find a link to this video and you can understand about the various important facts from our preliminary examination point of view related to the Rani Ki Vav of Gujarat. Now after this, let us take up some practice questions from our preliminary examination point of view. Now after going through today's discussion, you should try and answer these questions from your preliminary examination point of view. The answer for these questions will be displayed after 5 seconds. So the first question reads, with reference to the International Nitrogen Initiative, consider the following statements. The first statement reads, it is an international program set up in 2003 under the UN Environment. This statement is incorrect, as we have read that it is a program which was started in 2003 by the SCOPE and the IGBP. The second statement reads, the program is currently a partner of collaboration of scientists known as the Future Earth. This is a correct statement. Hence the correct answer that comes out is B, that is 2 only. The second question reads, with reference to the National Green Tribunal, consider the following statements. The first statement reads, it is bound by the procedure laid down under the Code of Civil Procedure 1908. This statement is incorrect because we know that it is not bound by this procedure and will work on the principles of natural justice. The second statement reads, the NGT deals with various provisions of the Wildlife Protection Act. incorrect because as we have read that it is the only exception and it does not deal with the Wildlife Protection Act 1972. Hence the correct answer is D. That is neither one nor the second statement are correct. With this we have come to the end of today's discussion. Now let us move on to the question for the day.